candle still burns, and the frost still clings to the world outside. When last we walked together, we stepped into a world bound by winter's breath, a 14th century village locked beneath snow and silence. We woke beside a dying hearth and watched a father, William, breathe life back into his embers. His hands moved carefully through ash and smoke, drawing flame from the faintest glow, a small act of courage, repeated each morning across the centuries. We felt the sting of the cold floor beneath bare feet. We heard the soft cough of a child in the smoky air. We watched as the first light crept through cracks in the shuttered window, turning frost into silver dust upon the walls. Through those first hours of dawn and morning, we learned the rhythm of survival, to move slowly, to breathe with the fire, to find warmth in the smallest of comforts. We saw Agnes, his wife, crack the ice on the water bucket, her fingers red with cold yet steady with purpose. And as the children stirred, the faint smell of smoke became the scent of hope. We followed them as they dressed, linen first, then wool, each layer a memory stitched by weary hands. We saw how love lived quietly in the details. A mended cloak, a patched sleeve, a child's mitten cut from an old garment, long past its prime. Outside, the frost glimmered like glass. Inside, the hearth breathed once more. The family gathered close, their faces touched by amber light, their spirits bound by routine and prayer. They are full of quiet courage and faith. Now, we return to them. The fire burns brighter. The day has begun in earnest, and hunger calls from the corner of the room. With food scarce and winter deepening, the family must stretch what remains, grains, roots, and memories of summer, into one more meal. Tonight we stir the pottage pot. We ration and remember. We learn how even the humblest bowl of stew could mean the difference between life and loss. So draw your blanket closer. Let your candle glow softly beside you. And listen as history whispers once again from a cottage where hunger and hope share the same fire. The fire hums low, its light stretching across the cottage floor. Outside, the frost thickens. Inside, the air smells faintly of smoke, wool, and hunger. Agnes moves slowly around the hearth, each motion careful, deliberate, for every crumb, every grain must be guarded. She opens the wooden chest near the wall, its lid creaking like old timber in the wind. Inside lies the family's lifeline, a small store of barley, a bundle of dried peas, and one last turnip from the cellar pit. Winter is not yet over, and the stores are thinning. Each measure must stretch a day longer than before. Each handful of grain must become a meal. She takes the barley first, pouring a modest scoop into her hand. The grains are cool and rough against her skin, tiny seeds of summer preserved through patience and salt. She empties them into the pot, where the morning's water still simmers above the coals. A faint bubbling, the start of a new day's pottage. William leans closer, breaking a sliver of yesterday's bread into pieces. He drops them into the pot as well, stale but nourishing when softened by heat. Bread and grain together form the heart of every peasant's table, plain, honest, enduring. From a small cloth bag, Agnes adds a pinch of salt. Salt is worth more than silver here. It preserves, it seasons, and and it reminds them of the sea they have never seen. She stirs with a wooden spoon worn smooth by years of use. The pot creaks softly as it turns. Steam rises, curling through the smoky air like incense. For a moment, the cottage feels alive again, not with abundance, but with memory. The children draw close, eyes fixed on the pot, watching as the mixture thickens. Their youngest, the little girl, presses her hands together and whispers a rhyme, a small charm for warmth and plenty. William sits near the wall, mending a wooden handle that split from the cold. His knife moves carefully along the grain, scraping, smoothing, shaping. The rhythm of his work matches the soft stirring at the hearth, a duet of survival. Agnes adds a few dried herbs, crumbled between her fingers, thyme and wild garlic gathered from the summer hedgerow. Their scent rises like a memory of green fields, of days when the world was not white and still. She lifts the spoon and tastes, a pause, a nod. It is thin, but it will fill the belly, and that is enough. Agnes sets the pot aside again, carefully covering it with a cloth, for perhaps there will be a spoonful left for tomorrow. The scent of smoke and broth lingers in the air, mingling with the faint sweetness of wood ash. Outside, the frost thickens still, but inside, the fire glows steady. The day stretches before them, and there is strength enough to face it. The bowls are empty now. The warmth of the meal lingers for only a moment. Then once again, the cold begins its quiet invasion. William rises slowly from his place beside the fire. His joints protest, a dull ache from years of labor. He wraps his cloak around his shoulders, ties the cord at his waist, and pulls the hood low over his brow. The cottage door groans as it opens. A breath of winter rushes in, sharp, stinging, clean. The frost bites his cheeks before he even steps outside. Behind him, Agnes tucks the children near the fire, pulling their blankets close. She watches as William shoulders the woven basket and steps into the pale light of morning. The sound of his boots on frozen ground echoes faintly in the silence. The village lies still, a cluster of cottages crouched beneath a white sky. Chimneys smoke weakly, and the wind hums low across the open fields. He walks toward the tree line, the basket bumping softly against his back. Every day he makes the same walk. To feed the hearth, he must feed the forest his strength. For in winter, firewood is life. Without it, the night would claim them all. Snow crunches beneath his steps. The air tastes of iron and pine. Each breath forms a cloud, rising and vanishing into the endless gray. He reaches the edge of the wood. Tall oaks stand skeletal, their branches veiled in frost. A single crow lifts from a branch, its wings scattering the silence. He kneels to gather fallen limbs, wood that must be dry enough to burn, yet small enough to carry. He tests each piece with gloved hands, snapping away rot and damp bark. The sound of splintering echoes softly through the trees. Sometimes the forest feels alive, watching, listening. William murmurs a short prayer under his breath, asking forgiveness for what he must take. He stacks the branches carefully into his basket, layer upon layer, until the load is full. The straps dig into his shoulders, and he feels the familiar burn in his arms. Still he turns for home, wind rises as he crosses the open ground, a long moaning sound that slides over the fields. He lowers his head against it, his cloak whipping at his legs. The world feels wide and empty, only the crunch of snow, the whisper of fabric, and the distant sound of the village bell marking noon. At last, he sees smoke from his own chimney, a promise of warmth, a reason to take another step. When he reaches the door, his hands are stiff and raw. He sets the basket down beside the threshold. Inside, the fire is waiting. Agnes looks up as he enters, her smile small but bright against the dim light. The children cheer softly, relieved at the sight of new wood for the hearth. He crouches once more by the fire, placing the driest pieces beside the flames. The wood catches slowly, popping, crackling, sighing. The smoke curls upward, and the glow fills the room once again. Agnes sets a hand on his shoulder. No words are needed. The day's greatest labor is done. Outside, the forest sleeps once more. Inside, the hearth breathes warm and steady. For one more night, the family will not freeze. The sun has climbed, though it hides behind a veil of gray. Inside the cottage, the air has warmed just enough to loosen the fingers, to call the body back to work. The family's meal is long finished. The bowls have been rinsed in cold water and set aside. Outside, the wind sighs across the field, but within these four walls, the day's quieter labors begin. Afternoons are for mending, for keeping what must endure alive a little longer. No hour may be wasted, not even in winter's stillness. William sits upon his stool near the door, a slant of light falling across his hands. Before him lies a small bundle of broken things, a cracked wooden rake, a split handle, a leather strap frayed thin from wear. Each piece bears the marks of the year's labor. Each must be restored before spring returns. He works with slow precision, the scrape of his knife mingling with the soft hiss of the fire. He shaves the wood smooth, fits the handle tight, and binds it with strips of rawhide soaked soft in water. The scent of wet leather and smoke fills the air. Across the room, Agnes sits near the small window, her lap full of wool and linen. A needle gleams faintly in her hand as she patches the knees of the children's hose. She hums quietly, the same gentle tune she sang when the children were babies. The eldest boy sharpens a small knife upon a whetstone, his movements careful, proud. The middle child gathers rushes from a basket, weaving them into tight cords for the floor mats. Even the youngest helps, sorting small twigs into bundles for kindling, her fingers pink and quick. This is the heartbeat of winter afternoons, quiet, steady, necessary. Every stitch, every repair is a promise that tomorrow will find them ready. William finishes his work and rises to inspect the roof beam. He runs his hand along the thatch seam where the snow has melted, leaving damp patches near the edge. A slow drip echoes into a wooden bowl below, each drop a warning of what might come. He climbs onto the small stool and presses handfuls of dried straw and clay into the cracks. The scent of earth fills the cottage, damp, ancient, comforting. He hums low, matching the rhythm of his wife's sewing. Outside, a pale light touches the frost on the window. The clouds break for a heartbeat, and through the misted glass, a single beam of sunlight spills across the floor. It lands upon the rush mat, upon the children's hands, and for a fleeting moment, everything glows golden. Agnes pauses, smiling. "Look," she whispers. The children lift their eyes to the light, faces open and full of wonder. Even William stops his work, watching the dust dance in that narrow stream of warmth. Then, as softly as it came, the light fades. The clouds close again, and the gray returns. But for a little while, the cottage had known the color of hope. William lowers himself back to his stool, his hands rough and tired. He looks at the tools laid before him, mended, strong once more. Then he nods, content. There is satisfaction in quiet labor, and peace in knowing nothing was wasted. The afternoon wanes, the fire sighs low. Soon, shadows will return to the corners of the room, and the family will draw once more around the hearth. Outside, the light fades from gray to blue, and then to shadow. The air thickens with frost again, creeping like a living thing across the window's edge. Inside, the family draws close to the hearth. The day's work is done, the tools mended, the roof patched, the children's laughter softened into yawns. William settles onto his stool, beside the fire, his hands resting upon his knees. His cloak smells of smoke and pine, the scent of labor and warmth intertwined. Agnes sits opposite, spinning a tuft of wool upon a drop spindle. The soft whir of the thread turning fills the cottage like a heartbeat. Each rotation weaves patience into thread, a humble rhythm of life. The children sit close upon the rush mat, bathed in the flickering amber of the firelight. The eldest carves a small toy from wood, a horse perhaps, or a simple bird. The middle child hums tunelessly, watching sparks dance within the hearth. The youngest, wrapped in a wool blanket, leans against her mother's knee. Her eyelids flutter like candle flames, and she whispers, barely awake, "Tell us a story." Agnes smiles, setting the spindle aside. She leans toward the fire, its glow soft upon her face. Then, in that gentle voice, born of countless nights like this, she begins. Once long ago, when the world was warmer than this, there lived a little wren who sang through the snow. Each morning, she left her nest to gather twigs for her home, and though the wind froze her feathers, she sang because her heart was still warm. The children listen, eyes wide, the flames mirrored within them. Outside, the wind hums low, and the thatch trembles gently above. When the story ends, there's a soft stillness, the kind that lives between peace and sleep. William pokes the fire, and the embers glow red once more. They share what remains of the evening, a few crusts of bread, a sip of ale kept from harvest. The children giggle quietly as their father pretends to sip from an empty mug. Laughter, even small, warms more deeply than any flame. Agnes wraps her cloak tighter, her gaze soft upon her family. The firelight glows against the walls, casting shadows that dance like old spirits of the hearth. She whispers a prayer for warmth, for health, for another sunrise. The others join quietly, their voices low, their hearts steady. Beyond the door, the night deepens. The stars shimmer faintly through thin cloud. And inside, by the steady breath of the fire, the peasant family finds their peace together within the warmth they have earned. The fire burns low now, its light a soft pulse upon the walls. Each flicker paints the cottage in gold and shadow. The family moves slowly, their bodies heavy with the day's work, their voices little more than breath. Outside, the wind murmurs faintly, curling around the thatch like a song half remembered. Agnes stirs the hearth one final time, lifting a small stick to coax the coals. The fire sighs, a sound like contentment or gratitude. She reaches for two smooth river stones that rest near the edge of the fire pit. Their surfaces glow faintly, warm to the touch. She wraps them in thick cloth, careful not to burn her fingers, and carries them to the straw bed. The children lift their blankets, small smiles flickering through tired faces. She tucks the heated stones beneath their feet. The warmth spreads slowly, curling through the cold air like a secret promise. William moves to the door, checking the latch. He presses it tight, sealing out the wind's long sigh. He listens for a moment, the stillness, the breath of his home, the faint crackle of dying flame. He turns, removing his cloak and boots. Each motion is slow, deliberate, the language of exhaustion and peace. He joins his family, pulling the wool covers close. For a while, there are no words, only the quiet rhythm of breathing. 5 heartbeats, 5 lives held together by warmth and will. Agnes lies awake a moment longer, watching the fire's glow fade into embers. Her mind drifts to summer meadows, to sunlight on fields, to laughter carried on open air. She can almost smell the grass. She closes her eyes, her lips parting in a silent prayer. Keep us through the night until morning comes again. The wind softens, the fire hums low. The cottage exhales, and sleep gathers them all. Outside, the frost thickens once more, but inside, there is warmth. Night has fallen completely. Across the countryside, tiny lights that shimmer in the dark, each one a hearth, a fragile spark of life. Frost glitters across the thatch roofs, turning every cottage into a silver crown. The fields lie sleeping, the trees still as prayer. And within the quiet, history breathes. Inside, the peasant family sleeps soundly. No riches, no feasts, no songs of glory, only warmth and each other. These are the forgotten ones, the hands that built the world, the hearts that held it together. Their stories seldom written, their names long lost to time, but their endurance shaped everything that followed. Each stitch sewn by candlelight, each ember tended through the long dark, each grain measured with trembling hands, all of it a quiet act of devotion. Without them, there would be no kingdoms, no songs, no dawns worth rising to. They were the flame beneath the world. So as you listen now, as the night deepens around you, know that their fire still burns. It lives within every breath, every spark, every whisper of warmth. Close your eyes. Breathe slowly. The past is not gone. It simply whispers in quieter tones. May your dreams be kind tonight. May your heart rest in peace, and your spirit carry this ember of endurance with you.